Close your eyes for a moment. Feel the stillness. Beneath the noise of the world, something is happening, something sacred. Everything around you is shifting, rearranging, and aligning, not by chance, but by the movement of the unseen hand. You've prayed. You've waited. And now everything is about to multiply, not because of your effort alone, but because of the one who responds to belief. Multiplication doesn't come when you beg for it. It comes when you embody the state of already having it. That's the law. That's the truth. That you don't need more signs. You don't need more proof. The stirring you feel within is the only sign you'll ever need. That nudge, that inner knowing, that's how the divine operates. Quietly, precisely, faithfully. You may have been looking at your life and seeing nothing but stillness, maybe even drought. But even in drought, the roots grow deep. Even in silence, the voice of God speaks. And when His hand begins to move, the multiplication is not gradual, it is sudden. It is complete. It is miraculous. Everything you've imagined, every vision you've held in your heart was not a fantasy. It was a preview. And the one who gave you the desire also gave you the means to fulfill it. Through assumption, through inner conviction, through the divine act of feeling it done. It is not your job to figure out the how. It is not your duty to trace every step. That belongs to the unseen force that governs all. Your only task is to become it now. Act as if it were already so. Think from the end, not of it. When you do, something ancient is activated. A holy multiplication begins, not in your bank account first, not in your relationships first, but in your awareness. And once it is multiplied in spirit, the world has no choice but to echo it. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are being multiplied in silence. So bless the quiet seasons. Honor the unseen labor. Rejoice in what you cannot yet explain. For it is written in spirit before it is revealed in form. God's hand is moving. Not to subtract, not to divide, but to multiply. Your peace, your joy, your resources, your calling. Stand in that knowing. Speak as one who already has. Walk as one who is already blessed. The evidence is coming, but the feeling is the first miracle. The invisible is turning visible. The seeds you've planted in faith are breaking through the surface. The door you once knocked on has been opened wide. And now, everything is about to multiply, because when God moves, He multiplies. God demands and requires everything in your life. What you call reality is but the echo of what you have accepted within. The world is not happening to you, it is responding to you. Not your words, not your effort, but your inner acceptance. This is the secret. Multiplication does not begin with things, it begins in consciousness. You may think that more money, more success, more love must appear before you can feel abundant. But the truth is the opposite. The moment you feel abundant, regardless of what the outer shows, the process of multiplication has already begun. This is the divine law in motion. Whatever you accept as true in imagination will clothe itself in form. Your imagination is not idle. It is the workshop of God, the creative power that molds reality like clay. And what you consistently feel to be true in that inner workshop must eventually emerge on the screen of life. If you desire to see multiplication in your finances, your relationships, your opportunities, you must first multiply your awareness. Abundance must be assumed, lived, and believed internally before the harvest appears. Most people are waiting for a sign to believe. But belief itself is the sign. When you believe something so deeply that it no longer feels like a wish, but a fact, then consciousness has accepted it. And what the mind accepts as reality, the world must reflect. You are not praying to something outside of you. You are aligning with what already exists in a higher realm. You are calling it forth, not by force, but by faith. You are not chasing multiplication. You are embodying it. And embodiment always precedes evidence. It is not the striving that multiplies, it is the stillness. It is not the begging that draws the increase, it is the assuming. The one who assumes the feeling of the wish fulfilled multiplies without lifting a finger, for their inner world is already in possession of the blessing. This is why you must train yourself to feel wealthy before wealth arrives, to feel chosen before love appears, to feel elevated before the promotion is offered. For when you do, you bypass the illusions of time and cause. You live in the result, not the effort. Look around you. Whatever you see is the residue of past assumptions. If your present reality does not reflect what you desire, do not argue with it. Do not react. Instead, return to the inner world and plant the seed again. Refuse to let the outer dictate your inner, because once the inner is set, the outer must follow. It is not magic, it is law, and it does not fail. Every multiplication begins as a single, unseen thought, a moment of agreement in consciousness, a quiet inner yes that says, "This is now who I am." That moment is sacred. That moment carries the power to rearrange everything. You do not need to wait. You do not need to hustle. You do not need to convince the world. You only need to convince yourself. So sit with it. Feel the reality of your desire, not as a hope, but as a fact. Not as a dream, but as something already done. Embody it. Dwell in it. Walk in it. And without effort, without struggle, what was once invisible will begin to multiply around you, because consciousness is the only cause. And what you accept in imagination will not remain there. It must become your life. There is a sacred rhythm to how divine power moves. It does not announce itself with thunder. It does not need applause or spectacle. It moves in stillness, in certainty, in the quiet conviction that something has already changed. When multiplication begins, it rarely begins with noise. It begins with knowing. So many are looking for loud signs, explosions of blessings, visible breakthroughs, unmistakable moments of divine intervention. But the hand of God often moves in silence. It's not the earthquake that signals His presence, nor the fire, nor the wind, but the still, small voice within. That whisper, that calm certainty, that deep inner peace. That is where the multiplication starts. You may not feel anything on the surface. Your bank account may still look the same. The relationship may not have shifted. The job may not have appeared. But somewhere deep within you, a quiet click happens. A moment of alignment, a subtle shift in feeling, and suddenly you just know. You know it's done. You don't know how, you don't know when, but you're no longer waiting. You're walking in faith, not hoping, but knowing. That knowing is the sign, not the noise, not the applause, not the crowd's approval, not the external confirmation. You see, divine certainty is not built on logic. It is built on trust. When you trust that what you've asked for has already been answered, you no longer look for validation in the outer world. You carry the answer within you. And that becomes the vibration that calls the multiplication into form. The world may call you foolish. They may say, "Where is it? What's changed?" But you will not be moved, because deep within your being you feel something unshakable. It is not excitement. It is not hype. It is not adrenaline. It is stillness. It is clarity. It is assurance. That's how God moves. When the divine hand begins to operate in your life, it first touches your perception. Your vision changes. You begin to see as if it's already done. You begin to speak from the end. You no longer reach. You rest. You no longer chase. You align. There is no need to announce it. No need to prove anything. The one who knows doesn't need to explain. Their life becomes the testimony. Their energy becomes the invitation. And the multiplication follows naturally because their faith has already made room for it. The moment you stop needing the noise is the moment you start recognizing the truth, because noise fades, feelings fluctuate, but knowing remains. That is how blessings multiply. Through still conviction, not striving. Through quiet belief, not loud desperation. Through the gentle power of assumption, not through the panic of evidence seeking. So do not be discouraged if your life feels still right now. Stillness is not the absence of movement. It is the preparation for it. It is the sacred hush before the bloom. It is the calm before the doors open. In that quiet place, let your faith deepen. Let your inner knowing take root, because when you know it is done, truly know, it is already unfolding. Even if your eyes cannot see it, your spirit knows it. And that is enough. The signs of multiplication may not come with thunder, they may not be dramatic, but they will come with peace. They will come with a sudden absence of worry, a detachment from outcome, a silent joy that whispers, "It is finished." That is the movement of God. Not loud, but certain. Not public, but powerful. And when it arrives, you will realize He had been moving all along. Whatever you dwell upon, you give life to. Your attention is not passive, it is creative. Wherever you place it, you plant a seed. And like all seeds, it begins to grow, to take root, to multiply. The mind is fertile soil, and what you continually water with your focus and emotion will become the harvest of your life. This is why you must be deliberate with what you allow to occupy your inner world. The thoughts you revisit, the feelings you rehearse, the scenes you replay. These are not meaningless habits. These are acts of creation. Every dominant thought is a prayer. Every repeated feeling is an instruction to the invisible. You are constantly instructing the world to shape itself around your inner state. If you dwell on lack, you multiply it not because life is cruel, but because life is obedient. It gives you more of what you dwell upon, not to punish you, but to mirror you. You are not the victim of your circumstances, you are the author of them. Your outer world is simply the echo of your inner focus. This is the law. Where your attention goes, energy flows, and results grow. God does not multiply random desires. He multiplies what you hold in your heart as true. Your dominant state becomes the blueprint, and that blueprint is honored without fail. It doesn't matter if your words speak abundance, if your inner state screams fear. It is not the words. It is the energy behind them that moves mountains. So ask yourself, what do I dwell on when no one is watching? What feeling do I return to in the silence? That is the seed I am planting. That is the future I am shaping. You don't need to beg for change. You only need to change your focus. Shift your attention from what is missing to what is arriving, from what has been lost to what is now possible, from limitation to expansion, from fear to faith. The one who learns to dwell only on what they desire, without contradicting it with doubt, is the one who sees miraculous multiplication. Not because they forced anything, but because they remain faithful to the feeling. Do not be casual with your inner life. It is the womb of your reality. What you carry there will be born into your experience. Be intentional, be selective. Your inner world is holy ground. Choose thoughts that affirm the life you want. Dwell on the end, not the means. Dwell on the result, not the resistance. Let your imagination feast on what is lovely, abundant, noble, and already complete. The moment you make this your dominant habit, everything changes. Slowly at first, then all at once. People will call it luck. You will know it as the harvest of what you chose to dwell upon in private. You don't need to control the entire world. You only need to master your inner state. Because your inner state is the seed, and the law of life is multiplication. God's hand is not far. It is within. It moves through your focus. It responds to your persistence. When you dwell in faith, He multiplies the outcome. When you dwell in lack, He multiplies the delay, not out of judgment, but reflection. So decide now what you will water. Decide now what you will rehearse. Refuse to entertain thoughts that drain you. Guard your mind as you would your most sacred treasure. Because it is. You are not waiting on God to move. God is waiting on you to dwell. And the moment your focus becomes clear, unwavering, and true, the multiplication begins. Delay is one of the most misunderstood parts of the process. To the surface mind, delay feels like punishment, like something has gone wrong, like your prayers have not been heard or your faith is being ignored. But what you call delay is often divine timing in disguise. And what appears to be stagnation is often unseen multiplication, growing in silence, preparing to emerge. Just because you don't see movement doesn't mean movement isn't happening. A seed doesn't sprout the moment it's planted. In fact, some of the most powerful growth happens in the dark, hidden from view. The root system takes shape underground before anything pushes through the surface. The same is true for the manifestations of your life. You imagined it, you felt it, you planted it in the soil of consciousness, but now you're tempted to doubt, to question, to dig it up and see if it's working. That's where many delay their own blessings. Not because the blessing wasn't coming, but because they disturbed the process with fear. Trust is not just believing that your desire is possible. Trust is knowing that its timing is perfect. Divine timing is never late, and it is never early. It aligns with the exact state of readiness in your spirit. You may think you're ready because you're desperate, but desperation is not readiness. Faith is. Readiness is the ability to receive without panic, to hold without clinging, to enjoy without fear. Delay is not denial. Delay is preparation. Delay is protection. Delay is the sacred orchestration of details too intricate for the human mind to grasp. While you're wondering when it's coming, divine intelligence is aligning people, places, conversations, and conditions so that when your desire arrives, it fits perfectly. But this requires patience, and patience is not passive. Patience is active trust. It is the refusal to give up, even when your senses offer no encouragement. It is the discipline of inner stillness, the knowing that the work is already done. There's a reason the harvest doesn't appear immediately. Imagine digging up the soil every day to check on the seed. It would never grow. But that's what many do with their manifestations. They plant the vision but keep uprooting it with doubt, fear, and impatience. You must leave it alone. You must trust the invisible process. Once a desire is accepted in imagination and felt to be true, it moves into gestation. This is the unseen phase, the silent phase. But it is no less active. It is here that the deepest changes occur, not in your world but in your being. Let the roots grow. Let the blessing mature. Let the invisible finish its sacred work. When you understand this, you stop begging, you stop checking, you stop doubting, you begin to praise it before it arrives. You begin to walk as if it's already yours. You begin to enjoy the peace that only comes from real faith. The ones who multiply are not the ones who wait perfectly, they're the ones who persist inwardly, who stay in the feeling even when there's no proof, who hold to the unseen even when the seen contradicts it. So if you're in a season that feels still, don't panic. Don't assume nothing is happening. What you call waiting is really building. What you call delay is really preparation. And what looks like emptiness is often the womb of overflow. Don't dig up what you planted. Don't question the process. Stay in alignment. Stay in gratitude. Stay in the feeling, because in one divine moment, everything can shift. And when it does, you'll realize it was never delayed at all. It was simply being made ready. Do not wait for the evidence. Do not wait for your bank account to change, the opportunity to appear, or the doors to open. The moment you assume the feeling of overflow, the divine law begins to move on your behalf. Reality does not create the feeling creates reality. There is a sacred power in assumption. Assumption is not fantasy, it is not pretending, it is not daydreaming. Assumption is the act of fully accepting a state as already real, already yours, already done. When you assume abundance, you are not wishing for it, you are being it. You are stepping into alignment with the version of yourself who already lives in the overflow. This is the divine order. First the feeling, then the form. Most people live the opposite way. They wait for circumstances to change so they can finally feel secure, finally feel rich, finally feel chosen. But this is the great error. Circumstances are reflections, not causes. They mirror your inner state. And if your inner state remains one of waiting, then life has no choice but to keep you in waiting. Then life has no choice but to keep you in waiting. But the one who understands the power of assumption reverses this order. They say, I will feel it now, not because I see it, but because I know it is already mine. They assume the feeling of wealth while walking through scarcity. They assume the feeling of love while surrounded by solitude. They assume the feeling of peace while the storm still rages. And it is this sacred act of inward ownership that causes life to reconfigure itself around them. The divine law is not slow. It is exact. The moment you shift within, the process begins. It may not be visible instantly, but it is activated immediately, and once activated, it cannot be undone, unless you withdraw the assumption. So guard your inner state. Protect the feeling. Do not let appearances distract you. To assume overflow is to embody gratitude before the gift arrives. It is to carry the posture of one who already has. You walk differently. You speak differently. You move with quiet confidence, not because something changed outside, but because everything changed within. You do not need to fake it. You need only feel it. What would it feel like to wake up knowing your supply was endless? How would you breathe, speak, and respond if abundance was your natural state? You do not need to wait to feel this. You can choose it now. And that choice is your bridge. It is your invitation to the divine law, saying, I am ready to receive, for I already believe. The mind will protest. It will say, but look around. Nothing has changed. That is your cue to go deeper, to feel beyond the senses, to remain faithful to the unseen. Because what you do not yet see is forming. What you do not yet touch is arriving. And what you've already assumed is already yours in the realm that matters most. So act from overflow now, give from overflow now, think from overflow now. Let your inner world be rich, not because you're trying to attract something, but because you've already accepted that it's done. This is the secret the world overlooks. When you assume abundance, you are not chasing blessings, you are matching them. And when the match is made, the manifestation is inevitable. Do not wait another day to feel what you desire. Feel it now, live it now, be it now. Overflow is not a future event. It is a present decision. And the moment you choose it, the law responds. The hand of God never begins with what you can see. It starts in the invisible. Beyond the reach of your five senses, beyond the surface of circumstance, beyond what others can validate or measure. All true multiplication begins spiritually first. It is formed in the realm of consciousness before it appears in the world of form. And this is why trust is the key. What you cannot yet see is not absent. It is simply unfolding. Like the roots of a mighty tree pushing deep into the soil, invisible to the eye, yet essential to its strength, so too is the movement of the divine. It begins in silence. It moves through the unseen. It prepares the ground long before the harvest breaks through. Most people look only at what is. They measure progress by what's visible, but the invisible is always greater. The invisible is where power lives. Everything that now exists once lived in thought, in vision, in spirit. The phone in your hand, the house you live in, the career you hold, each began in someone's mind, in someone's inner world. The same law governs your life. If you're not seeing the multiplication yet, do not be discouraged. Do not assume nothing is happening. That assumption is a lie told by the senses. The truth is far greater. What you've imagined, what you've believed, what you've accepted as already yours in your inner world is becoming. Not through effort, but through alignment. Not through force, but through divine order. You don't need to trace how it will happen. That is not your role. Your only task is to dwell in the state of the fulfilled desire, to feel the outcome as real and trust that the hand of God is moving, even when no movement is visible. Because He works behind the veil, He orchestrates in dimensions not yet revealed. So many abort their blessings by doubting what they cannot yet see. They plant the seed in faith and then dig it up in fear. But the ones who multiply are those who understand the law, first in spirit, then in form. When you pray, your prayer is answered immediately, in the unseen. The answer exists the moment the belief is formed. But it must mature. It must be drawn out by persistent alignment. Like water rising in a well, the substance is already present. It's simply being lifted by your unwavering faith. The hand of God is not idle. It is not silent because it is absent. It is silent because it is sacred. And the sacred always begins in secret. What you cannot see is being arranged. The right connections, the perfect timing, the ideal conditions, all coming together in ways you could not plan. But if you let appearances dictate your belief, you'll keep restarting the process. You'll keep canceling what heaven has already approved. That's why stillness is required. That's why inner conviction is more powerful than external facts. Believe in the invisible. Trust what your spirit knows, but your eyes cannot yet confirm. That is true power. That is faith. And that is where multiplication begins. So if the outer world still looks the same, rejoice. It means the real work is being done where it matters most. It means the invisible hand is moving, rearranging, aligning, unfolding. And in one sacred moment, the veil will lift, The spiritual will become visible. What once lived only in your imagination will stand before you in flesh. And you will realize it had already happened, you were just catching up to it. God moves through the invisible first. And when you trust that, you become unstoppable. Everything you desire, every overflow, every breakthrough, every multiplication is already in motion. But it does not begin with what you see. It begins with what you believe. The invisible is not empty. It is alive with purpose, forming your future through your assumptions, your feelings, and your faith. God's hand does not need noise to be powerful. It moves in certainty, in stillness, and in perfect timing. What you dwell upon expands. What you assume becomes. What you trust in the unseen unfolds in the seen. So guard your inner world, for it is the holy ground where all things begin. And above all, do not dig up in doubt what you planted in faith. Your harvest is not coming, it's already growing. Walk as though it's done, feel as though it's here, because it is. And the moment you align with that truth, the multiplication becomes inevitable. Sincere thank you line. Thank you for allowing these words to enter your spirit. May they remind you of who you truly are and the infinite abundance that is already yours. When everything around you seems quiet, when the heavens appear silent and no answer comes, do not mistake this stillness for abandonment. Silence is the sacred language of creation. It is in that silence that the seeds of your miracle are being nourished and prepared. Every great manifestation begins in stillness. You do not hear the sound of roots growing beneath the soil, yet they are preparing to push forth life. Likewise, when nothing seems to happen, something extraordinary is unfolding beyond the range of your senses. The outer world will always tempt you to believe that silence means nothing is working, but the truth is the exact opposite. Silence means movement, unseen, powerful, and unstoppable. The physical senses cannot perceive the reality being formed in the unseen, but it is there, complete, waiting for its appointed hour. In these moments, your only task is to remain faithful to the vision. Persist in the feeling of already having what you desire. Speak within yourself as though the prayer has been answered. See the end, feel the end, and live in the end. The silence is not your enemy. It is your greatest ally. When the world seems quiet, rejoice, for that is when the miracle is closest. The silence is not empty. It is filled with divine activity, shaping your future, aligning circumstances, and preparing the way. So hold your peace. Trust the silence. For when God is silent, it is not because He has forgotten you. It is because the miracle is already on its way. And soon, what you held in faith will stand before you in full glory. Silence is often the most misunderstood part of the spiritual journey. When you pray, when you affirm, when you believe with all your heart and yet hear nothing, no sign, no voice, no immediate change, you might be tempted to think that nothing is happening. You might believe you've been forgotten or that your prayer has fallen on deaf ears. But the truth is the exact opposite. Silence is not absence. Silence is presence in its highest form. It is the divine process at work, aligning everything in the unseen to bring your desire into reality. Consider this. When you plant a seed, you do not dig it up every day to check if it is growing. You trust the process. You water it, you give it sunlight, and you know that beneath the soil, roots are forming even though your eyes cannot see them. In the same way, when life seems quiet, when there are no signs or answers, the roots of your desire are spreading deep into the soil of the unseen. This stage is sacred because it is the stage of preparation. Just because you cannot perceive it does not mean it is not real. In fact, it is more real than what you currently see, because the unseen shapes the seen. Many people give up during the silence. They let doubt creep in. They start to question if their desire will ever come to pass. They speak words of defeat and undo the very work that was unfolding for them. Do not fall into that trap. The silence is your assurance that something profound is happening. Think about the ocean. On the surface it can look calm and still, but beneath there is a powerful current moving with great force. The same is true for your life. The stillness you experience is only on the surface. Beneath it, the currents of divine order are rearranging people, places, and events to fulfill your vision. In moments of silence, your role is not to panic or plead, but to trust. Trust with a depth that does not waver. Speak within yourself as though your desire is already fulfilled. Live from the end of what you want rather than from the fear of delay. The delay is an illusion because in the higher reality your prayer is already answered. It exists now, in a dimension your physical senses cannot yet touch, but it is there, complete and waiting for its appointed hour to appear. Understand this. Silence is not a punishment. It is protection. It is preparation. It is the space where things align so that when your desire emerges, it does so perfectly. If everything you ask for happened instantly, without timing, without process, it would not carry the depth and beauty it does when it arrives through divine order. So the silence you fear is the very sign that the process is active and alive. It means your desire is being shaped, refined, and brought into harmony with your life. So do not fight the silence. Embrace it. Rejoice in it. For it is not the sound of emptiness, but the sound of destiny forming without noise. When you hear nothing, it means everything is happening. When you see nothing, it means everything is aligning. Silence is not absence. It is the loudest evidence that you have been heard, and your miracle is on its way. Everything you experience in life begins in the unseen world of your imagination. Before anything takes shape in the physical, it is first born in thought. This truth is not merely a comforting idea, it is the law by which life operates. Your imagination is the workshop of creation, and what you vividly imagine and emotionally accept as true will eventually clothe itself in the fabric of your reality. When you close your eyes and create a scene in your mind, you are not daydreaming, you are laying the foundation for what is to come. Every invention, every discovery, every achievement began as an image in someone's mind long before the world saw it. The car you drive, the home you live in, the technology you use, they all existed in imagination before they became tangible. If this principle holds true for the great achievements of history, then it is just as true for your personal life. Whatever you consistently see and feel inwardly will be expressed outwardly. The mistake most people make is that they allow their imagination to run wild with fear, doubt, and limitation. They rehearse failure more than success. They picture lack more than abundance. They feel the emotion of disappointment long before anything has gone wrong. And because they feed these inner pictures with strong feelings, life simply reflects them back. The outer world is nothing more than a mirror, returning to you what you have accepted as true within. If you want to change your life, start with your imagination. Do not wait for the outer world to give you permission to feel blessed, successful, or loved. Assume it within first. Live the scene in your mind as though it were happening now. Let your senses participate. See it, hear it, feel it. The more real it becomes inside, the faster it crystallizes outside. Imagination is not fantasy. It is the blueprint of creation. The silence in your life is not a sign that nothing is happening. It is your opportunity to build the inner picture of what you desire without interference from the outer world. When you imagine, do not just see the image. Feel the emotion of it being real now. If you desire health, do not imagine being treated. Imagine yourself vibrant, strong, and full of energy. If you desire wealth, do not picture yourself wanting money. Imagine living in the joy of financial freedom. If you desire love, do not see yourself lonely and waiting. Feel the warmth of companionship and the security of being cherished. Whatever you feel deeply in imagination becomes your experience. The universe does not respond to words alone. It responds to the state you occupy. And imagination is the tool that shifts your state. Speak the words if they help you feel, but know that the feeling is the secret. When you feel something as real, the unseen forces of life move to match that vibration. It is not magic, it is law. You are not attracting what you want. You are attracting what you are conscious of being. So when life seems quiet and nothing appears to change, go inward and imagine. Take the silence as a divine invitation to create deliberately. Build the world you desire in thought and dwell in it as though it already exists. Because the truth is, it does exist right now in the unseen. And soon it will stand before you, real and undeniable. Because imagination creates reality. What you see with your physical eyes is not the whole of reality. In fact, it is only a fraction, the outer shell of a much greater truth. Everything that appears in the physical first existed in the unseen. The world you experience is nothing more than the shadow of an invisible cause. When you understand this, delays no longer discourage you. What you call a delay is not denial. It is preparation. The unseen realm is more real, more powerful, and more enduring than anything you can touch or see. And it is in that realm that your miracle is taking shape right now. When you plant a seed in the ground, you do not see the roots immediately, but you know they are forming beneath the soil. You trust that the process is unfolding, even though your senses offer no proof. The same principle applies to your desires. The moment you claim it in your heart and believe it is true, the unseen forces of life begin to move. Circumstances are being arranged. People are being positioned. Doors are being prepared to open. But this process is invisible to the human eye, and so we mistake it for nothing happening. What most people fail to realize is that the unseen world is the cause and the physical world is the effect. To judge the unseen by what you see outside is like judging the health of a tree by looking only at its branches while ignoring its roots. The roots, hidden beneath the earth, determine the life of the tree. In the same way, your inner belief, the unseen root, determines the shape of your outer experience. If the roots are alive, the tree will flourish, even if it looks bare in winter. Your life works the same way. When nothing appears to be changing on the surface, know that something powerful is moving beneath. Delay is the great test of faith. It separates those who truly believe from those who only hope. Hoping waits for evidence before it feels certain, but faith knows that the evidence will come because the unseen is already established. You do not need to see it to believe it. You believe it because you know the unseen creates the seen. The world has taught you to trust only what you can touch, but life's deepest truths do not live on the surface. They live in the silence, in the invisible currents that shape destiny. So when your desire feels far away, remind yourself that you are not waiting for it to be created. It already exists, fully formed in the unseen. The blueprint of your answered prayer is complete. The only thing time does is allow the conditions of your outer world to align with what already is in the invisible. That alignment is necessary so that when it arrives, it comes in perfect harmony. Your task is not to question how or when. It is to hold your state of belief as if the unseen were visible now. Speak as though it is done. Feel as though it is done. Act as though it is done. The delay is not punishment, it is precision. Life is not denying you, it is delivering to you in the best possible way. So trust the unseen, because that is where your miracle is born. Do not measure progress by what your eyes can see. Look deeper, beyond appearances. The unseen is more real than the physical, and everything you have claimed in faith is forming there now, waiting for its perfect moment to appear in your life. Persistence is the golden key to manifestation. It is easy to believe when everything looks favorable, when signs are everywhere and doors swing wide open. But true mastery is shown when nothing seems to change, when silence stretches on and your senses tell you the opposite of what you desire. In those moments, persistence is everything. To persist in the state of fulfillment means to live inwardly from the end result, even when the outer world offers no proof and no encouragement. The state of fulfillment is not something you visit occasionally. It is a dwelling place. You choose to occupy it as though it were your home. When you persist, you refuse to move back into the state of lack, fear, or doubt, no matter how real the circumstances appear. You understand that the outer world is always playing catch-up to your inner state. Reality bends to the persistence of your inner conviction. Why is persistence necessary? Because the senses will always present you with facts that contradict your desire. They will tempt you to return to your old state of disbelief. If you allow the outer to dictate the inner, you will forever remain a victim of appearances. But when you hold fast to your inner reality, when you continue to feel and act as though your desire is already accomplished, the outer world must eventually conform. It has no choice, because the law of life is simple. What you accept and persist in inwardly must express itself outwardly. Think of persistence like training a muscle. At first, your old habits of thought will fight back. They will tell you it is useless, that nothing is changing, that you are wasting time. But the more you persist in feeling the reality of your wish fulfilled, the weaker those old thoughts become. Your mind begins to accept the new state as natural, and once it feels natural, manifestation is inevitable. Do not confuse persistence with force or strain. It is not about effort, it is about steadiness. It is a calm, unwavering confidence. You may feel moments of doubt, everyone does, but you do not live there. You return again and again to the inner scene of fulfillment. You rehearse it, you feel it, you embody it until it becomes second nature. The question is not how long will it take, the question is, can you persist until it feels real? Once it feels real within, the outer world has no choice but to reflect it. There is a silent power in persistence. Every time you choose to imagine your desire is done, every time you choose to feel the joy of its completion, you are impressing that reality deeper into your subconscious, and the subconscious, once impressed, brings it forth without fail. It organizes people, events, and circumstances to make it so. This is why you must not waver. A wavering mind sends mixed signals, but a persistent mind sends one clear command: it is done. So when nothing seems to happen, persist. When days pass and no sign appears, persist. When others doubt you and circumstances shout impossible, persist. Hold the feeling of fulfillment as your most precious treasure, because it is. It is the seed of your future. And if you will dwell in it, live from it, and persist in it, the day will come when the world will call it a miracle, but you will know it was persistence all along. There is a mystery in silence that most people fail to understand. When nothing seems to be happening, when every effort appears unanswered, and the heavens give no sound, that is often the most powerful sign that something extraordinary is in motion. Silence is not the absence of activity. It is the evidence of deep, unseen work being done on your behalf. Think of nature. Before a seed breaks the surface of the soil, there is a season of complete stillness. To the eye, nothing appears to change, yet beneath the ground, life is unfolding in silence. Roots are anchoring, cells are multiplying, the design of the future tree is being shaped in darkness. If you were to judge by appearances, you might think nothing was happening, but in truth, the silence is the season of the greatest activity. Your life works in exactly the same way. When you pray, when you affirm, when you imagine your desire as fulfilled, the process of creation begins instantly. But because it does not show itself in the physical world immediately, you assume nothing is taking place. This assumption is the trap. It leads to doubt, and doubt leads to giving up. But if you understood the power of silence, you would rejoice in it. The quiet period is not emptiness. It is fullness preparing to appear. The reason silence is such a strong sign is because creation does not announce itself with noise. It moves without fanfare. It does not rush. It works in perfect order, aligning details, orchestrating connections, moving pieces you cannot see. And because this work is invisible to your senses, it feels like nothing. But the truth is, this is the stage of highest activity. The silence you experience is proof that the process is underway. If there were nothing to create, there would be chaos, noise, and uncertainty. But when the picture is clear, when the path is set, silence takes over because everything is already in motion. Consider this: when an artist paints a masterpiece, there is a moment before the reveal where the canvas is hidden. The work is finished, but the world does not know it yet. It is complete in the unseen, waiting for the right moment to be unveiled. That is exactly what happens with your desire. It exists already in the invisible realm, perfect and whole. The silence between your asking and your receiving is simply the curtain that keeps the masterpiece hidden until the right time. The greatest mistake you can make is to interpret silence as failure. It is not failure, it is the loudest announcement that success is inevitable. The outer world may look still, but in the unseen there is movement, beyond anything your senses can comprehend. The laws of life are never idle. They respond the instant you believe. The silence is not waiting on the law, it is waiting on you to remain steady, to refuse doubt, and to trust the unseen process. So when nothing seems to happen, shift your perspective. Say to yourself, this silence is proof, this stillness is movement, this quietness is power. The louder the silence feels, the greater the miracle being prepared. Do not let impatience steal your confidence. Instead, rest in the knowing that the silence is sacred. For when nothing appears to happen, everything is happening. The world may call it waiting, but you will know. It is fulfillment in progress, and soon it will break forth into the visible world. The most powerful conversation you will ever have is the one no one else hears, the dialogue within your own mind. Every day you speak inwardly, and those words, though silent to others, are shaping your reality. Your inner conversation is the seed of every outcome you experience. It determines whether you live in fear or faith, in lack or abundance, in defeat or victory. What you say to yourself when no one is listening is the clearest indicator of what you truly believe. Outwardly, you may speak words of confidence, but if inwardly you rehearse doubt, worry, and failure, life will mirror that inner voice. The law is simple. Your inner state creates your outer world. So if you desire change, you must first change the dialogue that plays inside your mind. When life feels silent, when there are no signs and no answers, your inner conversation becomes more important than ever. The silence outside is the perfect canvas for the words you speak within. Do not fill that space with fear. Do not rehearse what you dread. Instead, speak as though your desire is already yours. Affirm it in the quiet of your heart. Feel it as though it is happening now. The unseen responds not to what you hope for, but to what you inwardly accept as true. Think about the times you have worried about something. You may have imagined the worst outcome, repeated it in your mind, felt the emotion of it, and lived in its shadow long before it happened. That is the creative power of inner speech at work, but in the wrong direction. If your fears can create such vivid experiences inwardly, imagine what your faith can do when you deliberately shape your inner dialogue with truth, confidence, and fulfillment. Begin to monitor the words you speak silently. When doubt rises, replace it. When fear whispers, contradict it. When your senses tell you nothing is happening, answer back with certainty. It is done. My prayer is answered. My desire is fulfilled. Do not speak as someone waiting. Speak as someone receiving. Do not speak as one lacking. Speak as one living in abundance now. These inner declarations, repeated and felt, impress the subconscious mind, and the subconscious moves the unseen forces of life to bring your words into being. Your inner conversation is not idle. It is not harmless. Every word impresses, and every impression must express. The question is, what are you impressing right now? If your life feels stuck, it is not because the world is against you. It is because your inner dialogue has not yet aligned with your desire. The outer world only echoes the inner voice. So take control of that voice. Fill your mind with the language of victory, of completion, of joy. Walk through the day with an inward certainty. It is already mine. It is already done. Let these words become your constant meditation. Speak them when you wake. Speak them when doubt comes. Speak them until they feel natural. And when they feel natural, manifestation is inevitable. In the end, your inner conversation is the author of your destiny. Guard it, direct it, empower it. For when you speak inwardly as though your desire is already yours, life will confirm your words, and what was once only a thought will stand before you as undeniable reality. When the silence feels heavy, when nothing seems to change, remember this: silence is not absence. It is the greatest evidence that something divine is taking shape. In that stillness, your imagination holds the key. Your trust in the unseen keeps the vision alive, and your persistence in the state of fulfillment seals the outcome. The quiet is not empty. It is full of creation. Every thought you entertain, every inner word you speak, is laying the foundation for what will soon stand before you. So do not let delay deceive you. Do not let the lack of signs weaken your faith. The unseen realm is more real than what your senses can grasp. And in that realm, your miracle is already complete. Stay steadfast. Speak inwardly as though it is done. Feel it as though it is yours now. For soon the silence will break, and what you once held only in your heart will become visible to all. The silence you fear today will be the testimony you celebrate tomorrow. Trust it, embrace it, and live from the end, because your breakthrough is already in motion. Way to say thanks to the audience. Thank you for sharing this moment with me. If these words spoke to your heart, carry them with you and let them shape your inner world. Stay faithful, stay inspired, and remember, the silence is never empty. It is full of miracles waiting to unfold. Until next time, keep believing and keep living from the end. Thank you and stay blessed. There comes a time in life when everything seems locked against you. Doors appear closed and the situation feels impossible. But I am here to tell you something that will change your life forever. God is about to turn the impossible into reality. The word impossible is a lie told by the senses. Your outer world is nothing more than the shadow of your inner state. The moment you begin to see beyond what your eyes can observe, you step into a realm where all things are possible. The absurdity the philosophy of listen carefully. Your desire is not random. It was planted in you because its fulfillment already exists. If it were not possible, you could not even imagine it. The seed of your dream carries its own completion. So, what must you do? Live in the end. Close your eyes and picture the life you long for as if it is already yours. Speak as though it is done. Feel the joy, the relief, the gratitude of it being complete. Do not wait for the evidence. Be the evidence in your mind. Understand this. The bridge of events will form. People will appear. Opportunities will rise from places you never expected. The world will bend to bring your inner picture into outer reality. But it all begins in you. And while you wait, do not fear delays, do not panic. Silence is your greatest power. Every doubt you entertain pushes the promise further away. Stand firm. Praise God for what you do not yet see. Speak words of gratitude, for the unseen is far more real than what your senses can touch. Today the impossible is becoming possible. Today what you thought could never happen is already moving toward you. Believe it. Accept it. Live it now. For God has already declared it is done. What you call impossible is not a fact. It is a perception. It is nothing more than a belief you have accepted as true because your senses told you so. The world has taught you that some things can happen and others cannot. You have been conditioned to measure possibility by what you see, by what you hear, and by what others say. But I tell you, the impossible is only an illusion created by the mind that does not yet know its own power. Every great achievement in history was once considered impossible. Flying through the air was once madness, until a man believed differently. Speaking across continents in an instant was once a fantasy, until someone dared to imagine it real. Walking on the moon was a fairy tale, until faith in imagination made it a reality. The line between possible and impossible is drawn only by thought, and thought can change in an instant. When you call something impossible, what you really mean is that you do not know how it will happen. You are looking at the outer world and you cannot see the way. You cannot see the bridge. But the absence of a visible bridge does not mean there is no bridge. It only means it is invisible to the eye, yet fully formed in the unseen. The mind that believes in limitation will never find the way, but the mind that believes in possibility will always create one. So how do you dissolve impossibility? You do not fight it, you rise above it. You shift the way you see the world. Stop asking, how will this happen? And start affirming, it is already mine. The moment you claim it in your imagination, the moment you feel the reality of it within, the impossible begins to crumble. Because imagination is the creative power behind all that is seen. Everything you see today existed first as a thought, as an image, as an inner conviction. When you close your eyes and dare to believe that what you desire is already yours, you have stepped into the highest law of creation. The outer world cannot resist for long what is fully accepted within. It must conform. It must rearrange. It must bend to reflect the truth you hold. This is why impossibility is an illusion, because the creative process does not begin with what you see. It begins with what you believe. Do not allow appearances to dictate your faith. The senses are blind to the unseen forces that shape destiny. The next time your mind whispers, "This is impossible," smile and say, "No, it is done." Say it until you feel it. Live as though it is true. Walk with the quiet confidence that life is aligning with your inner conviction. For when you believe, when you persist, when you hold the picture without fear, impossibility dissolves like smoke in the wind. Nothing is beyond you, nothing is too great. The word impossible is a prison built by doubt. Break the walls by believing, and watch the world bow to the power of your faith. The moment a desire is born within you, it carries its own promise. Desire is not an accident, nor is it a cruel trick of life. It is the evidence that what you long for already exists for you, waiting to be claimed. You could not desire what is not possible. You could not imagine what does not exist in some dimension of reality. Every desire is a signpost pointing to something already prepared, something already complete, waiting for you to align with it. Think about this. Where does desire come from? It does not come from outside. It does not fall from the sky. It rises from within your consciousness, the same place where all creation begins. If it were not possible for you to have it, you would never be able to conceive it in your mind. The fact that you feel it, the fact that you long for it, means it is part of your path. It is already done in the unseen. You are not chasing after something uncertain, you are moving towards something guaranteed. But most people make a mistake. They treat their desire as something far away, as something to be achieved by struggle, as if they are starting from nothing. They do not realize that desire is not the beginning of creation. It is the sign that creation is already complete. The unseen world is more real than the visible one. Every picture you hold within your mind is a reflection of something that already exists in the invisible realm. Your role is not to create it, but to align with it, to believe in it so deeply that it steps out of the unseen and becomes your experience. When you understand this, you stop doubting your desires, you stop questioning whether you are worthy, whether you can afford it, whether the timing will work out. Those doubts are lies, for the desire itself is proof that it belongs to you. You did not choose it. It chose you. It was given to you because it was meant for you. Life never teases. It does not awaken longing without also preparing the way for fulfillment. So how do you claim what is already yours? You do it by living as though it is true. You assume the feeling of having it now. You speak as though the promise is fulfilled. You move with confidence, not because you can see it, but because you know the unseen is more certain than the seen. When you walk in this faith, when you persist in the conviction that your desire is the evidence of its own reality, nothing can stop it from manifesting. Do not ignore your desires and do not dismiss them as foolish dreams. They are whispers from a higher reality calling you forward. When you honor them, when you believe in them without fear, you align with the law of life. And then what was once only a thought begins to take shape. It comes in ways you cannot predict, through channels you cannot control. But it comes because it was always yours. Your desire is not a question. It is an answer. It is not a hope. It is a sign. It is proof of something finished, something waiting, something destined. Hold it, believe it, live it now. For what you desire is already here, and soon you will see it with your own eyes. The greatest secret to manifestation is this: you must live as though your desire is already accomplished. The world teaches you to wait for evidence before you believe, but the law of creation demands the opposite. You must believe before you see. You must feel the reality of what you want before it can take form. This is what it means to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Your imagination is the workshop of reality. Everything that exists began first in the mind of someone who dared to feel it real. The house you live in, the clothes you wear, the very device you hold, all were first imagined by someone who lived in the end before it appeared. They walked through it in their minds. They felt the satisfaction of its completion long before others could see it. And that is why it became real. When you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you are not pretending. You are aligning with truth, for what you imagine with faith becomes the blueprint that shapes your world. You cannot create anything by longing for it from a distance. Desire without assumption keeps your dream in the future, always beyond your reach. But the moment you move from wishing to feeling, the moment you claim it as done in consciousness, the process begins to unfold in your favor. Close your eyes for a moment and picture the life you want. Not as a dream, but as a present reality. See yourself there. Touch it with your senses in imagination. Hear the words you would hear if it were true. Feel the joy, the relief, the gratitude of living it now. This inner experience is not fantasy. It is the seed of manifestation. What you accept as real within must one day appear without. But you cannot waver. You cannot assume the feeling today and then doubt tomorrow. Consistency is the key. Hold the state until it hardens into fact. Let the feeling become your dwelling place. When the world contradicts you, do not abandon your inner truth. When nothing seems to happen, do not despair. The unseen is at work, arranging the pieces, opening the doors, moving the mountains. Your only task is to remain faithful to the end you have assumed. And when you live in this way, walking, talking, thinking as though your dream is here, you activate a power greater than circumstance. Opportunities appear, people show up, paths unfold that logic could never predict. Life begins to mirror the image you hold, and what was once a wish becomes your reality, not by chance, but by law. So do not wait to feel it when it comes. Feel it now. Let the joy of its fulfillment fill you today. Act, speak, and think as if the promise is already kept, for in the unseen it is. And the unseen always becomes seen when you persist in faith. The end is already yours. Live there in your mind, and soon you will live there in the world. Your imagination is not just a place for daydreams. It is the creative power that shapes your entire life. Every event, every circumstance you call real began first as an invisible picture held in the mind. What you see around you now is nothing more than the shadow of what was once imagined, by you or by someone else. The world does not move by chance. It moves by the inner images we entertain with persistence and belief. When you hold an image in your mind and feel it as real, you create a bridge of events that leads from where you are to the fulfillment of that picture. You may not see the bridge immediately. It is not built in the physical world first. It is constructed in the unseen. But once it is complete in imagination, life begins to rearrange itself to make it so. People will come into your life. Opportunities will open. Coincidences will appear, though nothing is truly a coincidence. It is all the outworking of the inner picture you have chosen to accept. Most people live as prisoners of the visible. They let the outer world dictate what they believe is possible. They say, I will believe it when I see it, and so they never see it. Because imagination never had a chance to plant the seed. Creation works the other way around. You must see it within before you can ever see it without. The unseen always precedes the seen. So I ask you, what pictures do you hold in your mind? Are they pictures of lack, limitation, fear? If so, you will cross a bridge to those very experiences. But if you dare to imagine abundance, love, health, success, and persist in that inner vision, you will move across the bridge to a life that reflects those images. The outer world cannot resist the inner conviction. It must conform. But here is the key. The bridge is not built by wishful thinking alone. It is built by sustained feeling. You cannot hold the image for a moment and then abandon it because you see no evidence. You must remain faithful to the unseen, even when the outer world shows you the opposite. The longer you hold that inner picture with confidence, the stronger the bridge becomes, until one day you find yourself walking upon it without even knowing how you got there. This is the power of imagination. It does not wait for logic. It does not require the approval of others. It does not care about statistics or facts. It simply creates according to the pictures impressed upon it with feeling. And the world, every circumstance, every event moves into alignment to make that picture real. So close your eyes tonight and paint the image of the life you desire. See it clearly, feel it deeply, live there in your mind until it feels like home. For once you have done this, the bridge is already built, and life will guide you step by step across that bridge to the fulfillment of your dream. Silence is not weakness, silence is strength. When you are silent, you stand in a place of unshakable confidence. You do not need to argue with circumstances, you do not need to beg or plead, and you certainly do not need to explain yourself to anyone. True power moves in silence, because silence speaks of certainty. When you ask for something in prayer or claim it in imagination, the work is already done, the seed is planted. But many people destroy that seed by speaking words of doubt, by running to others for reassurance, by complaining when they do not see instant results. Every word of fear, every thought of uncertainty is like digging up the seed you just planted. How can it grow if you keep disturbing the soil? Understand this truth. Doubt is the enemy of manifestation. The moment you doubt, you delay. The moment you let fear in, you push the fulfillment away. Why? Because you are stepping out of faith and back into the realm of appearances. You are saying, I don't trust the unseen, I only trust what I can see. But what you see is the past. It is the result of old thoughts, old beliefs, old feelings. If you want something new, you must remain faithful to the unseen. And the best way to stay faithful is through silence. Do not talk about your fears. Do not explain your dreams to those who will only discourage you. Do not argue with reality. Instead, retreat inward. In the quiet of your mind, hold fast to the picture of your desire fulfilled. Feel it so deeply that it becomes more real to you than anything you can touch or hear. That silent conviction is the force that moves mountains. When you remain calm and quiet, you show the universe that you trust the process. You trust that an unseen hand is working in your favor. You may not know how it will happen, but you know that it will, and that knowing is what creates the way. Doors open when you stop pounding on them. Paths appear when you stop forcing them. The stillness of faith speaks louder than the noise of desperation. So the next time you feel the urge to panic, to question, to cry out in fear, stop. Breathe. Withdraw into the silence of your inner world and remind yourself, it is already done. Let that be your meditation. Say nothing to those who cannot understand. Speak only in whispers of gratitude to the one who hears your heart. Then watch as life rearranges itself quietly, effortlessly, perfectly. Silence is not doing nothing. It is doing the greatest work of all. It is the posture of those who know that what they seek is already theirs. Remain silent, remain confident, and let the power that moves the stars also move every circumstance to bring your desire to life. Gratitude is the language of faith. When you give thanks for something you cannot yet see, you declare that it is already yours in the unseen. This is one of the highest acts of trust. Anyone can be grateful when the blessing is in hand, when the evidence is clear, when the miracle has already appeared. But gratitude before the manifestation, that is power. That is what moves the invisible into the visible. When you thank God for what has not yet shown up, you align yourself with the truth that creation is finished. You are saying with every fiber of your being, I believe it is done. And the moment you believe, the process is set in motion. Life responds not to begging, not to pleading, but to the vibration of certainty. And gratitude is certainty expressed. Think of the farmer who plants a seed. He does not stand over the soil in fear, wondering if something will grow. He knows the harvest is guaranteed because the seed is good and the law is sure. So he gives thanks in advance. He waters the ground with expectation. He celebrates the crop before it rises. This is how you must treat your desires. Once you have imagined the end and assumed it to be true, give thanks. Praise what you cannot yet touch as though it is already in your hands, because in truth, it is. Gratitude shifts your mind from lack to abundance. When you are thankful now, you are no longer waiting, you are living in the reality of fulfillment. Waiting says, it will come one day. Gratitude says, it is mine now. And life will always mirror your dominant state. If you live in waiting, you will wait forever. If you live in thanksgiving, your world will rearrange to match your inner conviction. But you must feel it. Empty words will not move mountains. When you say thank you, let your heart overflow with the joy of already having what you desire. Picture yourself holding it, using it, living in it. Let the emotion of gratitude flood your soul until it feels real, because it is real in the unseen. That unseen reality is more certain than the shifting facts of the outer world. Do not speak of delays. Do not question the timing. Every time you doubt, return to thanksgiving. Say, thank you for this blessing that is already mine. Speak it when you wake. Speak it when you walk. Speak it when the night is dark and the evidence is nowhere in sight. Because gratitude is faith made visible, and faith is the bridge between what is and what shall be. So start today. Whatever you have asked for, whatever you have imagined, give thanks now. Give thanks before the door opens, before the answer comes, before the miracle shows up. Praise what you do not yet see, and it must appear. For nothing is more powerful than a heart that thanks in advance for what it knows is already done. What you once called impossible is no longer a barrier. It was only a shadow cast by doubt. Every desire you hold is not a random wish. It is a sign of something already complete in the unseen, waiting for your acceptance. When you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, when you trust your imagination to build a bridge, when you remain silent and unshaken, and when you give thanks before it appears, you align yourself with the highest law of creation. Do not wait for evidence. Create the evidence within. Walk in faith, speak with confidence, and live as though your dream is here, now. The world will respond. It must rearrange itself to mirror the picture you hold inside, and in the right time, in the perfect way, what was once only an idea will stand before you as fact. Remember this always. The impossible exists only in the mind that doubts. Believe, persist, and give thanks, because it is already yours. When you hear nothing, do not be afraid. Silence is not the absence of an answer, it is the presence of preparation. The world around you may look unchanged, your prayers may seem unanswered, and your dreams may feel distant. But in truth, the greatest movements happen in the unseen. Everything begins in stillness. The seed does not shout when it grows beneath the soil. The roots do not make a sound when they spread their strength deep into the earth. And yet, in that hidden work, the entire tree is being formed. So it is with your life. When nothing seems to move, the question is not, why is nothing happening? The question is, can I remain expectant when everything appears silent? For expectation is the language of creation. To expect without evidence, to hold the picture in your mind without needing proof. That is the secret of all transformation. The silence is not your enemy, it is your bridge. It is the unseen path between where you stand and where your desire lives. If you feel you are in the middle of silence, rejoice, for you are standing on the threshold of manifestation. Remember this. The answer exists before the question is ever asked. The dream is completed before you first imagine it. Your desire is not coming to you, it already is. The silence you hear is not the end of the story, it is the pause before the music begins. So, if you hear nothing, expect everything. For in the unseen, everything is already yours. Silence often feels like abandonment. When we pray, when we hope, when we pour our hearts into a dream and all we receive in return is stillness, it can shake the very core of our faith. But understand this, silence is not rejection, it is preparation. It is a sacred pause between the desire and its fulfillment, the quiet space where the universe rearranges itself to bring to you what you have already claimed in your imagination. When nothing seems to move, when doors appear shut, and every sign points to delay, it is easy to believe that nothing is happening. Yet the greatest movements of life are often concealed. The most powerful forces work in the unseen. Consider a seed planted deep in the soil. For weeks, perhaps months, there is no visible sign of life. If one were to judge by sight alone, it would appear dead, forgotten beneath the earth. But beneath that stillness, a miracle unfolds. Roots are spreading, strength is forming, and the promise of the tree is being prepared. So it is with you. Silence is alignment. When life seems paused, it is not because your prayer has gone unheard, it is because the pieces that you cannot see are falling into place. The relationship you seek, the opportunity you desire, the healing you long for. All these things require harmony, timing, and readiness. You cannot see it, but everything is moving toward you in ways far beyond your understanding. The universe does not operate in haste. It works with precision, ensuring that when the moment arrives, it is perfect. Do not mistake the quiet for a void. It is not empty, it is full of potential. It is the invisible stage being set for the scene you have imagined. When you feel nothing is happening, understand that everything is happening, just not in a realm you can measure with your senses. The silence is your invitation to trust, to rest in the knowing that the end is already written. So, when life goes silent, do not allow doubt to whisper its lies. Do not let fear convince you that you have been forgotten. Silence is not punishment. It is preparation. It means something greater is being aligned for you, something you could not arrange by your own strength. The pause is not there to break you. It is there to position you. Hold the vision. Remain faithful to the unseen. Keep walking as if the answer is already yours, because it is. The seed does not need to be dug up to prove it is growing, and neither do you need visible signs to believe in what is already certain. The silence you endure today will become the sound of fulfillment tomorrow. Trust the process, for nothing is ever truly still. The quiet you fear is the womb of creation, and in that silence, your miracle is forming. Would you like me to write 5 more expansions like this for the other keynotes? You have a complete series for your speech. The greatest works of life begin in silence. When the universe moves, it does not announce its steps with noise or commotion. It works in stillness. Every transformation, every breakthrough, every blessing that has ever entered your life began long before you saw any evidence of it. The visible world is only the last stage of creation. Everything starts in the unseen. Think of the seasons. Before the first flower blooms, the earth lies silent under the frost. Beneath the hard ground, roots are stirring, preparing for the life that will one day burst forth. To the eye, winter looks like death, but in truth, it is the season of preparation. So it is with your desires. When nothing seems to change, when life feels still, it is not that nothing is happening, it is that everything is happening where you cannot yet see. The unseen is the birthplace of all reality. The chair you sit on, the home you live in, the technology you use, all were first invisible, existing only as an idea in someone's mind. Creation follows a law. It begins in thought, it moves in silence, and then it appears in form. Your dreams are no different. The moment you imagine it, the process has begun. But just as a seed needs time in the dark soil, your desire needs time in the unseen before it becomes visible. Do not mistake stillness for absence. The pause is not a void, it is a process. The reason the universe works in stillness is because alignment requires harmony. If you could see the countless threads being woven for your good, you would never doubt again. The connections, the timing, the opportunities, they are all being prepared. And if it appears nothing is happening, it only means the work is too deep for your senses to measure. Patience is faith in motion. It is choosing to trust the silence, knowing that stillness is not stagnation, but orchestration. When you feel stuck, when your prayers echo without response, remember, creation always begins in the dark. The night comes before the dawn. The roots grow before the tree rises. And the stillness comes before the manifestation. If you are in a season of silence, rejoice, for it is proof that something powerful is unfolding. The stillness is your sign. Do not rush to force what is already moving. Do not dig up the seed to see if it grows. Let the universe work in its perfect order. One day, what was once invisible will stand before you in full clarity. What was silent will sing loudly in your life. Every major change you desire is already in motion, though you cannot yet see it. Trust the unseen, for that is where creation lives. And when it is ready, it will appear. Not a moment too soon, and not a moment too late. The stillness is not empty. It is the soundless rhythm of the universe shaping your destiny. Would you like me to continue with the next keynote? Your faith is measured in quiet moments, and expand it the same way. Faith is not proven when everything is going your way. It is tested in the silence, in the spaces where nothing seems to happen, where prayers seem unanswered and doors remain closed. Your faith is measured in those quiet moments when there is no evidence, no sign, no voice assuring you that things will work out. It is in that stillness that the strength of your belief is revealed. When you hear nothing, the mind will attempt to fill the silence with doubt. It will whisper that you have been forgotten, that what you want is impossible, that you should give up and settle for less. These thoughts come to shake your foundation, but they do not define reality. They only test your capacity to hold the vision without panic. This is the measure of true faith, to see the end in your mind even when the present gives you no reason to believe. Imagine the sculptor with a block of marble. At first glance, there is nothing but a rough stone, no sign of beauty or form. Yet the sculptor sees what others cannot. With every strike of the chisel, he moves closer to the masterpiece he already holds in his imagination. So it is with your dreams. You may see only emptiness now, but within the silence, something is being shaped. Faith thrives in stillness. Anyone can believe when results are obvious, when the signs are clear and progress is visible. But faith is built in the unseen, where nothing responds to your effort and all you have is the conviction within you. That conviction is your bridge. The ability to remain calm, to refuse fear, to stand in expectation when nothing in the outer world supports your hope. This is the secret that determines the outcome. Do not confuse silence with absence. The universe has not gone quiet to deny you. It has gone quiet to prepare you. Every great manifestation requires a waiting season, not to punish you, but to strengthen the foundation upon which your desire will stand. The silence trains your heart to trust without conditions, to hold the vision without grasping for control. When fear rises, remind yourself, The promise is already mine. I do not need proof to believe. Speak to yourself in the quiet. Replace panic with peace. See the end as already accomplished, for that is the essence of faith. One day, what you hold in imagination will appear in form, and when it does, you will understand why the silence lasted so long, because it was shaping you as much as it was shaping your dream. Your faith in quiet moments is not wasted. It is building a reality that only the patient will ever see. Trust the unseen, hold the vision, and let your faith speak louder than the silence. Do you want me to continue and write the next keynote? Expectation is the language of creation. In the same detailed way, your expectation is the silent force that shapes reality. It is more than hope, more than desire. It is the unwavering conviction that what you seek is already on its way. To expect, even when there is no evidence, is to align yourself with the creative power of life. It is the act of opening the door to miracles, not by force, but by certainty. Expectation is not passive. It is not sitting in despair wishing things would change. It is active, alive, and powerful. It moves through your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. When you expect something, you begin to live as though it were already true. This is the secret. Your outer world mirrors the state of your inner expectation. Consider the farmer who plants a seed. He does not return to the soil every hour, wondering if something will grow. He expects it. His expectation guides his behavior. He waters, he tends, he prepares for the harvest. Not because he sees the crop, but because he knows it is coming. So it is with your desires. When you expect their fulfillment, you stop questioning the process. You stop doubting. You begin to prepare for what is yours. Expectation is the language the universe understands. When you live in fear, in doubt, in constant worry, you are declaring with your being that you do not trust the outcome. But when you expect with confidence, even in silence, you align with the very frequency of creation. Miracles do not happen to those who beg for them. They happen to those who expect them. This does not mean forcing yourself to be cheerful or pretending that challenges do not exist. It means holding an inner certainty that, despite appearances, everything is unfolding for your good. It means saying to yourself, I do not need to see it yet. I know it is already mine. That knowing becomes the foundation of everything you do. Expectation transforms the way you think. It removes hesitation. It silences fear. It gives you the courage to take steps toward the life you envision, even when the path looks unclear. To expect without evidence is not ignorance, it is wisdom. For the unseen always precedes the seen. Everything you now touch and experience began first as an unseen reality. If you want to invite miracles, live in expectation. Act as if what you desire has already been given. Speak words that reflect the reality you are creating, not the one you fear. Carry yourself with the quiet confidence of someone who knows the end from the beginning. One day, what you expect will appear. And when it does, it will not feel like a surprise. It will feel natural because you lived in alignment with it long before it came. Expectation is the language of creation. Speak it daily, not with words alone, but with belief so strong that nothing can shake it. In that state, miracles are inevitable. Would you like me to continue with the next keynote? Silence is the bridge to fulfillment in the same deep and powerful style. Silence often feels like emptiness, but in truth it is the bridge to everything you desire. When life grows quiet, when there are no signs, no answers, and no movement, it is not a sign of failure. It is the sign that you are standing on the threshold of manifestation. The silence you fear is not a void. It is the passageway between what is unseen Every great thing in life travels through silence before it takes form. A child grows in the quiet of the womb, long before the world hears its cry. A seed germinates in the darkness of the soil before it breaks the surface. The most profound changes happen without announcement. So it is with your dreams. When you feel nothing happening, understand this: everything is happening in a realm you cannot yet see. We live in a world addicted to noise. We crave constant signs, immediate results, and visible progress, but creation does not follow that pattern. The universe works in stillness because stillness allows alignment. If things moved before they were ready, they would collapse under the weight of haste. The silence is not delay, it is preparation for permanence. When life goes silent, your mind will try to interpret it as rejection. Doubt will whisper, "It's not working, it's never coming." Fear will say, "You've been forgotten." But none of these are true. The silence is not a punishment. It is proof. Proof that the process is underway. Proof that the promise is taking shape. Proof that you are closer than you think. The question is, can you walk across this bridge without breaking it with fear? Can you remain steady when the road makes no sound beneath your feet? This is where faith is tested, where trust is deepened, and where the soul learns the greatest lesson of all: patience with certainty. When you accept silence as part of the process, you stop grasping for control. You stop asking for signs to reassure you. You rest in the knowing that the destination is certain, even if the journey feels still. This quiet trust is what moves mountains. It is what keeps you aligned with the outcome you desire. One day, the silence will break. The stillness will turn into sound. The sound of doors opening, of prayers answered, of dreams fulfilled. And when that day comes, you will see why the bridge had to be silent, because in that quiet space, everything was aligning in perfection. So the next time life falls silent, do not panic. Do not assume it is the end. Know that you are standing closer than ever to what you asked for. The bridge may feel empty, but it is leading you straight to fulfillment. Walk it with confidence, for silence is not the end of your story. It is the unseen path to everything you desire. Do you want me to write the final keynote expansion? The answer exists before the question is asked, in the same style. Before you ever spoke the words, before the thought even formed in your mind, the answer was already complete. What you desire is not being created in response to your request. It already exists. Every solution, every blessing, every dream you hold in your heart has been finished from the beginning. The silence you feel now is not the sound of nothing. It is the space between your present and your fulfillment. We live believing that life responds after we act, that the answer comes after the question. But the truth is reversed. The question arises in you because the answer is already there. Desire is evidence of completion. You would not long for something unless it was already possible and already prepared. The moment you feel the pull toward a dream, it is not a sign of lack. It is proof that it is waiting for you. Think of a river flowing toward the sea. When the raindrop falls, its path is already decided. The pull toward the ocean is inevitable. So it is with your desire. The moment it was born in your imagination, its reality was secured. The only journey is your alignment with what is already finished. Silence often feels like waiting, but it is not waiting for creation. It is waiting for you, waiting for your faith to deepen, for your fears to quiet, for your vision to become unwavering. The universe does not need time to create. Time is for you to grow into the version of yourself who can receive what is already yours. When you hear nothing, when life feels still, it is not because nothing exists for you. It is because everything is aligning to bring the unseen into the seen. The answer is complete, but its manifestation requires harmony between your inner state and its reality. That is why you must remain steady in silence. Panic closes the door, but trust swings it wide open. Do not chase what is already finished. Do not beg for what is already yours. Instead, rest in the certainty that your desire is done. The moment you imagined it, it entered the realm of completion. Now your only task is to live as though it is so. Hold the picture, speak the words, walk in the feeling that it is accomplished. One day, without effort and without warning, it will appear, not as something new, but as something inevitable. And when it does, you will understand why the silence lasted so long. Because in that quiet, you were being shaped to hold the fullness of what was already complete. The answer exists before the question is asked. Your dream is not coming to you, it is waiting for you. Silence is not empty. It is the sacred space where the finished work comes to meet you. Trust the process, for nothing is missing. It is already done. Would you like me to compile all 6 keynote expansions into one long flowing speech for a single powerful YouTube video? Or keep them as separate scripts for a series? When life falls silent, do not fear it. Every pause, every still moment, every unanswered prayer is not rejection, it is alignment. The universe works in stillness, shaping your desires long before you see any evidence. Your faith is measured in those quiet moments when nothing moves, yet you choose to believe. Expectation is the language of creation. When you expect without proof, you open the door to miracles. Silence is not an empty space. It is the bridge carrying you to fulfillment. And remember this truth: the answer existed before the question was ever asked. Everything you seek is already completed. It is only waiting for you to trust, to believe, and to remain steadfast. So the next time you hear nothing, expect everything. The silence is not the end. It is the beginning of something greater than you ever imagined. Trust the unseen, because your miracle is already here. I'm going to say thank you for taking the time to listen to these words. If this message touched your heart, share it with someone who needs hope today. Stay blessed, stay expectant, and remember, your silence is not empty, it is full of answers.